and the whole idea with this build is that within the AM4 socket DDR4 era, there is so much upgradability. Alright guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're doing another PC build from a combination of new and used parts, and this will be either a gaming or a creator PC, depending a little bit on how you tweak it. So without further ado, let's get down to the parts list. And our case of choice is the Asus Prime AP201 in white. This is a MicroATX case. The motherboard is the Asus TUF Gaming B450M Pro S. This is a non-Wi-Fi version. In this little lovely wedding box, we have the Ryzen 5 2600. We also got a used GeForce GTX PNY 2600. This is a single fan version. Our cooler is the Be Quiet Pure Rockslim 2 tower cooler. We got 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM here. This is the Vengeance LPX 2666 mega transfers a second. Our system drive is the WD Blue 250GB SN570. And powering our build will be the Corsair RM650X. This is a fully modular power supply. I got this without the cables, and man, you're learning as you go along, right? So since I had to purchase the cables as well, the price ended up being very close to what I could have bought it from new. So you live and learn. These panels just pop off. So it comes with a 12 centimeter fan, non-RGB, which is great. We're not putting any RGB into this build. It's going into my living room, so no RGB for this one. Could take off the front panel as well. USB-C audio on-off button and two USB 3.0 ports. Everything looks like it's well set up for cable management. This is the cage for the power brick. Let's talk a little bit about my ideas for this build here. This is an AM4 socket DDR4 build, and that is last generation. We are now on AM5 and DDR5. In my experience, staying just below the peak of what you can get within computers, that's where the sweet spot is if you want performance for money. I've got a DDR5 PC, but the parts for that one is extortionately expensive compared to DDR4 parts in my experience, or at least in my market here in Norway. And on top of that, to be honest, you know, as DDR5 users, we are still guinea pigs at this moment. Now, that being said, we're not going for top of the line DDR4 or this generation components. The Ryzen 5 2600 is about on par with the i7 3770 according to CPU Benchmark. Maybe a little bit better in some cases, but it will get our build up and running. And the whole idea with this build is that within the AM4 socket DDR4 era, there is so much upgradability. This is 2666 megabyte RAM. You could probably get something quicker, not that I looked. What I'm looking for is to be able to put 64 gigs into this computer at a later state. And also with the AM4 socket, you can go all the way to a Ryzen 7 5800X 3D CPU, which is probably the best one you can get, but that's the equivalent of $400, and I think I paid $50 for this one. And if your needs are more production, you could go with the Ryzen 9 5950X. We're using the RTX 2060, which I think is the first generation ray tracing board. To be honest, if you want to reduce the cost of this build, going for a GTX 1060 with 6 gigabytes, not the 3.1, and you could like half the cost of the GPU or even more doing that. But my point here is that this build is so versatile. You can upgrade this build any way you want for years to come. Let's start planning out the build here a bit. I've seen some reviewers complain that this here PSU cover plate or whatever, it's a bit difficult to get off. So let's see. Can't really say I see what the fuss was about, but whatever. So initially, I'm not going to put an AIO into this. We'll be using only the one fan that came with the case. So we'll be mounting this one a little bit higher. I've got a Chinese NVMe M.2 SSD on the way, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. So we won't be mounting any 2.5-inch discs here either. So I'm thinking about like where I'm going to put, or how high I'm going to mount this PSU. Lots of screws. So these tabs here are up. The PSU is exhausting, I think. So I guess we want it to exhaust out of the cabinet. And yeah, our screws are lining up here as well, which is great. So yeah, let's set that aside for now. Cardboard box here so we don't scratch our beautiful white paint here. All right, you're not going to stay there, are you? We have ways of enforcing our will here. Little zip tie around this here, like so. Now you should be more out of the way. So this is the exhaust side of the PSU, and I think we'll be mounting it in the topmost position for now, leaving a space for down here. If the time comes and I buy an AIO, we may have to move it, but let's leave that as a problem for future us. Here we have a motherboard, Asus Tough Gaming B450M Pro. I have had all of these parts together, like testing them just to see if there's any problems, and of course there was. I had to update the BIOS on the motherboard in order to get Windows 11 to run on it, for instance. And I also figured out that I didn't have the appropriate cables for the power supply, so yeah. So there's our motherboard. So it's time for the beating heart of our build, which is the Ryzen 5 2500. As you can see, I purchased this used. But I mean, the guy took really good care when he sent it. So now I've already tested it. Let's try not to bend any pins here. So there's the arrow. Going to give it a little bit of wipe with some alcohol, just in case there's any fat there from my fingers. For this I'm just using antibac, but this has to be without glycol, because that's like gloopy goo, you can't use that. So the Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim 2. So our tower cooler here. These springs here, they're for attaching the fan. This is some candy that they send along for free, you know, since they're nice. Tastes great. This is if you're mounting it to an Intel, I think. Ah, the nice sound. So here's the fan. I'm going to put a small zip tie on this because the length was like I couldn't sneak it underneath one of these springs here. Then it was too short, and if I turn it, then it was too long. So yeah, I'll be trying to just, you know, think cable management from the beginning. I think is like my tip to anyone. It's like if you put the build together and then start thinking about how you're going to manage your cables, and yeah, it's a lot harder at least. So I think that's going to work out really well. The bracket here is the exhaust. So I put it like this. The logo on the fan there is tricking me. So, I mean, these are super simple to mount like this. When this came, it had a really good coverage of cooling paste, but since I've had it together for a test build, I needed to clean it, right? I'm not a cooling gel aficionado, but this is the one I've been using. It's a Coolermaster Mastergel PRO V2. I know there's a hot discussion of what is the perfect cooling pattern or pattern for this one, but since I you know, taken this apart a couple of times, what I've really seen is that with Adamant IT, he's always using like a cross pattern. And I got real good results doing it like this. So that's what we're going with. So making sure that I'm hooked on both sides. Gently easing it down. This is going to smear that cooling paste all over the place when we do it like this. And yeah, so that's the springs on, and it's really good on there. So this is the RAM we're going with. It's the Vengeance LPX DDR4. This is 2 by 16 gigabytes. We got 32 gigs here, 2666 megahertz. So this is like the normal RAM distribution for an Asus motherboard. There are probably different ones, not that I've seen anyone, but if you're running 2 sticks, make sure to keep them in the correct slots here so that you're running them in dual mode, because then you basically get twice the RAM speed. I saw this guy who was selling a computer he built on a Norwegian website, and he said that the RAM was mounted single channel. So I asked the guy, like, why? And he was like, yeah, because I couldn't be arsed to do it any other way. But I mean, like, there has to be something wrong with that build, because I mean, why would you, if you know about channels, mount it, you know, single channel? It's like, it's the closest you can come to a scam, in my opinion. Yeah, red flag on that build. That's a red flag if I've ever seen one. I wasn't able to find the specific version number of the RAM that is tested in the QVL list to run as 4 by 16 on this. But it is the same serial number. So I'm hoping that we are able to upgrade to 64 gigabytes at a later state. I really dislike this with one of these latches here. The old DDR3 RAM was so much easier to mount. I usually give it like a squeeze on the side there to make sure that it's seated correctly. So that's our RAM in. The CPU cooling fan, it's a 4-pin fan that goes in here. So this is the system drive that we're going with. It's the Western Digital Blue SN570. It's an NVMe SSD, it's M.2 and 250 gigs. Should be ample for running Windows 11, at least if you don't put your games and stuff on it. I don't remember how much this was, so I'll check it out and put some info for you. Yeah, that's right. I also got like a cooling kit for this one. I need to show you that. Where is the cooling kit? So this is it. It's something I purchased locally. It's a copper and graphite. Peel the sticky stuff off there. You know, this is only going to hit the controller and the memory module here. And I really don't think this little M.2 disk here needs it. But originally I purchased this M.2 disk for the YOLO PC build, and not that it's going to run any hotter on that one, I think, but yeah, it's just fun to test it out, you know. And then there's these, yeah, attach it with these bungees. See, if you can see, I put 2 on this side because that's where the memory module was, so we get a little bit of pressure on that one. And 1 over here. If you put them on the middle, like when there's a gap here, you're just bending it. I had to put this spacer here in. It came with the card. It wasn't mounted, so I had to mount that. So finger tight is more than enough. So that is the M.2 disk in. I'm going to wait mounting the GPU until we have this one in the case. So there's two PCIe slots here. The lower one, the lower PCIe slot here, it's deactivated when we use the M.2 slots up here. And I have a disk on order, a 1 terabyte disk that I'll be mounting here. Right, so the next logical step in our process here is to mount the PSU. You know, the fact that it kind of hooks around these things makes it really easy. That's dangerous to say, but it makes it at least seems very easy to mount it standing up like this. And also, when the PSU is inside here, we have access by taking off the top cover here. We have access to the on-off switch. So this is something that the other cabinet, the Q500L, I think that was a Coolermaster Q500L. It was quite a budget cabinet. It was easy to build in it. No, don't get me wrong, but it lacked the access to the power button, you know, because it kind of used the same technique here by mounting the power button, the PSU up here instead of down below the card, the motherboard. So yeah, I had to get some of these Corsair. These are Type 4 cables. It took a lot of digging to figure out what cables I needed. Because initially I purchased the wrong cables, and I thought all I needed was some extension cables, but that's not going to cut it. So they sent these, and they're quite well made, but you know, it's only one of these cable combs here. So for the price, I really think that they could have, you know, added some cable combs as well. But what we're going to do, we're going to plug these in before we mount the PSU in the cabinet here. So this is basically an 18 plus 10 to 24 pin ATX. Why it's like that, I got no idea. And like I said, you live and learn, but you know, if I had known that the cables were that expensive, I probably wouldn't have purchased this power supply. But yeah, it's supposed to be a very good power supply. So then we have the CPU one. Oh, this is, you can split this one if you only have a 4-pin connector on your motherboard. I purchased, this was a starter kit. It has basically it has the most basic cables you need. PCI cable as well for a GPU. And we'll put it there. Like so. And this is really nice because you don't have to manhandle that thing now. It kind of like, it hangs there, so that you're able to get the screws in place without fighting the thing, which is nice, I think. Now I can understand why people that work with maintaining computers may want one of those small electronic screwdrivers. I mean, if you're not doing this for a living, a normal screwdriver is all you need. And also the fact that, you can't tell how much force you're putting on the screw when you're using one of those electronic ones. So yeah, finger tight, more than enough. Like if you're worried about vibration, what you need to use is Loctite or a little bit of super glue on them, and you don't need to tighten them that hard. That's not the correct thing you need to do. It's time for the I/O shield. So it's time to drop in the motherboard. See that we have space for it. The motherboard screws there, they are there's a little bit of a lip on them, so it hooks around or hooks inside of these holes here, which makes it's easy to locate the motherboard is what I'm trying to get at here. There's 4 SATA 6 connections here that are not going to be used in the near future. We're going all out NVMe SSD, NVMe M2 SSD on this. Albeit not the highest quality discs, but like I said, one of the ideas with this build is to stay, you know, just below that level of the newest, because you can get so incredibly much value for staying a little bit below. So yeah. This is the wrong cable, isn't it? Have I put the wrong cable up there? I have. Well, it's nice that we discovered this now, you know? Because we could have kind of screwed up on that one. Oh, you're going back out. And you're going in here. It's always interesting how you're going to do this twist here. Just kind of need to twist it. Oh, you're probably not seeing anything now, but okay. Bring this cable comb a bit back, you know, to get a little bit of a more nicer look to this, like so, for instance. Oh, so that was a bit of a sweat trying to get that CPU power cable in there and filming it at the same time. Yeah. So this is the 4-pin chassis fan connector, and the fan wire exits here. So I think I'm going to take off the fan or screw it off and then turn it 90 degrees so that the cable comes out here. Wow, these screws are quite coarse. They're screwing straight into the plastic on the frame to the fan here. So this is what I'm thinking. Turning it 90 degrees. It's closer. I mean, there's more wire, but still, I'd rather cable manage this wire here close to here. I've ordered some white light fans. I don't know where I'm going to put them. Maybe it's chassis here or maybe in a different build. Let's see. I don't know yet. CPU chassis fan. You go here. 3-pin fan. This here cable needs to be hidden somewhere. If we put it over there, they would just put it back to where it was. Maybe it's the best thing to do, I don't know. For now, it's out of the way. It's time for the ATX cable. It's the same issue we have, that we kind of need to turn it around and then get it in there. And the most challenging thing is actually to be able to film it for you guys. You know, because getting it in there, if I didn't need to film, would be quite easy. I like trying to get a shot of this. There we heard a click. So I just realized that there is no USB Type-C connection on this motherboard, so I guess we're going to have to figure out something, buy some kind of converter or something. But it's not going to give us the USB-C speed anyways, but that's what you have to live with when you buy a little bit of older hardware, I guess. Or when you don't remember to check. There's a couple of more things. There's a couple of things I'd like to do before we drop in the CPU now. And it's this front panel stuff here. This is for the 2 USB 3 headers. And I'd like to drop in the power. And I'll see if we do the pinout as well. Could bring it in there, but like for a future... I mean, the graphics card now is not that long. That may change. We may change the graphics card. I mean, it's not like the graphic card, the GPU is going to grow on us, is it? Man, it's really tight in here. Anyway, there's only like the power switch and the power LEDs that is going to the front I/O. I'll show you a picture of the pinout for the 10-pin panel here, but basically the power LED is the 2 top ones there, and then there's the power button. It's the positive power LED, and then it's the negative, and this is the 2 power switches. You know, with the amount of standardization the world has been able to manage lately, wow, the fact that this is not standardized is a tragedy. So yeah, that's those in. So I changed my mind about the front I/O cable here. I was able to route it through this slot here instead of that one, and then that way, you know, when I fix it like this, it's going to look a lot better in my opinion. So I'm bringing the power cable out this way. It's connecting like this, which is kind of stupid, but yeah, I'd rather have it the other way around, so the cable came this direction. But it seems to be like one of the themes for this build, the fact that we have to twist all the cables. I think we're in there. Alright, so we have the front panel audio header down here. That's good, because on my other motherboard it stopped there, and I thought we had to like traverse the whole motherboard, but now we can bring out the audio cable down here and just hook it up to there like we did with the other cables, and that's great. Like the other cables, we have to kind of, let's see, where's the, oh, this goes up. Well, okay. So this one is not that difficult. I got this 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. I got both of these through AliExpress, by the way, but this one turned out, you know, after tax and whatever, that I could have gotten a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD cheaper in Norway, because the store that I'm using, they sell with free shipping. So hydrate or die. So this is the position for the M.2 disk. This one is the Walram 1 terabyte M.2 SSD. I wonder if I need to get some standoffs for this or what. Oh, come on. I may need a standoff here. Goes in like this, and I need a standoff there. So this is a cheap Chinese motherboard. So it's a Jingsha. I think it's a B450 chipset, but don't quote me on that because I really don't remember. Anyhow, this is an LGA 1155 and it fits DDR3. We're going to do another budget build with this later on. But you know, it's cheap Chinese, but the PCB feels really almost like over-engineered. But guess what? It has standoffs on both places, and I mean, I don't know why the Asus TUF gaming board doesn't have these things. It's like selling a car without wheels, you know. It's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. Checking to see that there is actually no more. Maybe I'm the idiot here. All right, found it. Sorry. That's nice. Now we don't need to rip those things off the Jingsha motherboard. I'm really looking forward to building with this. You know, what I'm not looking forward to is trying to figure out that BIOS, but oh well, that's a problem for future me, I guess. They supply these small wrenches here. It's great for these things. And you don't need to cinch it tight, just need a little bit of finger tightening. I guess it depends what you're going to use your computer for, but I mean, if you're going to play basket with it, I guess you have bigger problems. Right, so in goes the NVMe disk. Tiny screw here, magnetic screwdriver for the win. This part of the heatsink goes off. Let's see if we can get this in first then. Right, so that's the heatsink in. So according to the manual, when the second M.2 slot here is in use, this PCIe slot is disconnected, or at least they share bandwidth. So there's no need populating them both. I did some preliminary cable tidying back here so that we're able to lay the case down. I mean, it's not a work of art, but it's good enough for now. I will need to get the GPU in and see if this thing posts. It's finally time for the GPU. Like I said, this is a GPU I found on the Norwegian, say like a Norwegian version of Craigslist, finn.no. It was around 180, or equivalent to $180, but like 190 including transport or shipping. So here we have it. It's a GeForce RTX 2060, and it's a one fan model, a short model. So I have an idea that I can use this in a MINIATX build later, you know, after I've decided to upgrade this one. I need to take off 2 of these shields. I don't get this satisfying click out of this motherboard, you know, like I used to from the other one. Let's see, over there. This is like one of those split cable. So the cable is a mess here and we need to pull that back. And it's clear that this area here is like, because the shroud goes over here, right? So it's clearly intended to tuck away a lot of cables down there. Which is strange because it's really it's a good place for a fan, like, or actually made mounting areas here for different drives as well. So I changed my mind again. Where is Vader? Vader. So I changed my mind again and I brought this cable through this slot here rather than here, because I mean it was already crowded up here, as you can tell. I get to run a bit shorter. Alright, so let's see if we can get post. If you get it to post now, then it's up to the living room and start installing Windows on this thing. So we have power cycle. BIOS is updating LED firmware. This is always, I'm always seeing this on this one, but I haven't had it connected to the internet. Yeah, take a look at this. Yes, we have post. All right. There's some kind of RGB in the pure white box. We have to see if we can install some software to get rid of that. Anyway, we're setting up Windows now. So we're in the Superposition Benchmark. And we're running at, so yeah, over 100 FPS. So the last one was 1080p medium. This is 1080p high. And we're getting 77 FPS here. So I say let's go 1080 extreme. Okay, so now we are on 1080p extreme settings. We're getting around 30 FPS. And again, this is amazing. We're running Superposition in 4K here. And we're getting 45 frames. Its minimum is 29.9. We're averaging around 44. Right, so now I'm stressing the CPU with CPU-C, and I mean, we have a max temperature here of 55 degrees. It just doesn't go any higher. And that means that the tower cooler, check it out, all cores are being stressed. So that means that the tower cooler that we bought, it's performing its task admirably. You know, while I was sitting here, open this case, it's been a couple of weeks because I've been away. This cabinet here is fantastic. I mean, if you want a stylish, good-looking cabinet, and you know, you're not going for that RGB stream gamer style, but you're more of a grown-up, you want this in your living room or something, then I mean, this case is fantastic. And also building it in it, it's really nice. So this is a MicroATX motherboard. You know, check it out. We could fit a huge AIO up here, right? And there's space for, you know, whatever size you can imagine of GPU here, man. Cable management was a breeze. Yeah, I can really recommend this case, guys. Right, so I'm just checking to see that all systems are go here, and they seem to be, because now I'm going to get the last things done with this build. Right, so what we're doing, we're installing this USB 2.0 to USB-C adapter. So let's consider cable management for a while. This is the USB-C type connector, and it's going down here. So I think we'll route it behind here, coming out possibly, you know, here somewhere in that gap you can see there. Right, so finally it's in. But I gotta tell you, this is my first letdown with this case. It's the length of this front USB Type-C cable here. Because I mean, of course I could have just had it hanging here like some kind of bum, but I had to go through the front here to get it down there. And I mean, come on, it should have been at least 10 centimeters longer or something. But yeah, I guess on the newer motherboards, perhaps the USB-C type headers are on this side, I don't know. I think the SSDs in my budget build, the creator budget build, was around 540. So this is basically insanely quick compared to that. Anyway, this is the random Chinese disk. Let's run one on C disk as well. So that's a lot quicker. I don't know, maybe the disk has different specifications. Let's check. So this is the Western Digital Blue, and it seems to be up to spec. I'm just going to check the AliExpress one. Okay, so it's a little bit below spec. It says 1800 and 2000 for the random reads and writes for the Chinese disk. I don't want to go too crazy with the cable management until I see that we are posting. Oh, I'm running gigabytes of video now, and this is not interesting, this is not content. Come on, just do it, and let's restart the cameras. Come closer. Fiddly, fiddly, fiddly. This is fiddly. This is the definition of fiddly. It's not difficult, it's just, you know, fiddly. I don't know why I haven't stopped the cameras yet, because I love cutting away. Ooh, I'm down from 4 hours to 3 hours now. I'm so good at editing, you know. Oh gosh. Well, I'm going to take a normal cable tie and do that. For now, it's out of the way.